Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Hello, Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf, Hayemi Meseches NIDDAH Daf Zayin. We are holding on Vav Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. Tanan, we have a Mishnah, Hasam over there, Meseches Chala, discussing a dough that a woman is forming, which encountered perhaps Tumah. So it's in a state of Suffolk. Perhaps Tameh, perhaps not. Non-Hasam, Ne'elallah, Suffolk Tumah. So there developed in this dough a Suffolk Tumah. Now, the question is like this. Typically, we're meant to guard, we're meant to do Shmira on holy items. So Truma, the Chala portion from a dough given to a kohen, you have to guard these items. You can't allow them to become Tameh. In fact, Rashi brings a pasuk. Mishmeres Truma Yisai, plural. You meant to guard something which is Tahar from becoming Tameh, and even something which is perhaps Tameh, but not confirmed. You have to still watch it and guard it from becoming definite Tameh. Okay, so back to our story. Ne'elallah Safek Tumah. They developed in this dough a Safek. Perhaps it became Tameh. What happens going forward? Does she have to spare it from any further Tumah or not? You see, in this dough, there is an element of Kedusha. There is that challah portion, which is meant to be separated and given to the kohen. It's within this dough. So, on account of that challah element, perhaps there's a chiyuv of shmira to guard the dough from tumah. Ad shaloi gilgala. So, if it's before she formed into a proper dough, so the chiyuv challah has not yet been activated, there's no obligation to guard it. Te'asa betumah, it can be processed betumah, no concern. And eventually, when she'll separate the portion of dough for the kohen, okay, so it'll be tameh. We'll have to take it and use it as fuel. Mishel gilgala, but suppose the episode occurred after she formed it into a proper dough, in which case the challah obligation has already been activated. So it's as though it's here. We see the challah element before us in this dough, and that obligates us to treat it accordingly and guard it from any further tumah experiences. Te'asa b'tahara has to be processed b'tahara. And the Gemara explains why. If it occurred before, formed into dough, you can just do it b'tumah. Because we're talking about regular materials without any special status. A person can cause tumah to regular materials in Eretz Yisrael, despite the fact that ultimately it's going to bring about that the challah, the future challah taken out of this dough, will have tumah. It's irrelevant because in its current state there's no kedusha. But mishal gilgala, however, if the suffix tumah occurred after being formed as dough, so the challah element is already here, is already sort of embedded in this dough. You have to treat the whole dough accordingly. The entire dough gets special status because of the chal element embedded within it. Te'asa b'tahara. It has to be processed b'tahara. Reason is because chulin atvulin l'chal, because although it's chulin, but it's tvulin, comes from the word tevel. It contains within it that element of challah which will be separated from it. Hatvulin l'chal ki chaladon. The entire batter has to be treated like chal because of the anticipated, because of the future, because of the chal that will be separated from it. And one is not allowed to cause tumah to chal. So this entire batch is treated like challah because of the challah element contained within it. Tana, we learned further in a brayso which explains the Mishnah. We turn to the next one. Although we are compelling her to guard the dough from any further issues, but the actual challah which will be separated from this dough of uncertainty is of course teluya. It's sort of hanging. It's in its pending limbo status. You can't the kohen can't eat it nor burn it because of the original suffix that took place with this dough. Be'ezah suffix amru, continues the Gemara. What type of suffix are we talking about, which requires us to to point out that the challah is inedible? Well, obviously, if it's a straightforward suffix tumah, did it touch, then there's no need to discuss this and specify that you shouldn't eat the challah. Obviously, we all know that, right? We're speaking about something with a catch. Besafik challah. We're talking about a possible tumah that is unique to challah, which is only a concern by challah, as opposed to ordinary chulin, which encounters the same exact experience, would not be a concern. So it's sort of a slight chance, a slight uncertainty. And because it's challah, or because it's chulin hatavulin l'challah, chulin which contains within it challah, it is susceptible even to this sort of minor concern. My suffix challah, what the suffix? Which is something which wouldn't pose a concern ordinarily, but does regarding challah. Abaye and Rav Adam Tarai, they both explain, I don't think we're talking about obvious cases of suffix tumah, like a case of two paths, where we know that in one there is tameh, there's a mace lying there, and he walked through one, he's not sure which path he took. Of course, that's a straightforward, obvious suffix. That would affect anything and anybody. The hasim chulin grei danami matami, there would also be matami regular chulin misafik. There's no need to discuss that case. Ela ben nisha. We're talking about something which is unique and poses a concern only by things of higher standards. B'nisha, by leaning, which is this name of a mission. Zav v'tohar shoyu perkanas minachamor. So we know that a zav, if he leans on a person who's tar, makes him tameh. And vice versa, if the tar leans on him, it's called tumas hesed, masa, right? So suppose they're not really leaning on each other, they're just unloading a truck. They're unloading a donkey together, or a toyan, or loading up the donkey. Is there a concern for the fellow who's tar, standing and working alongside the tameh? Well, it depends how heavy the loads are. If they're dealing with heavy loads, tameh, then the fellow is tameh, because we're concerned that perhaps throughout the loading or unloading process, somebody leaned on each other and lost balance and sort of supported the other, which is a transmitter of tumah. Mason kalba, we're talking about light loads, tar, there's no concern in his tar. The kulan tar b'nei knesses, Rashi learns, even by the heavy load, there's no issue by b'nei knesses, by ordinary citizens sitting in the shul. That's another way of saying individuals who are of higher standard, they eat their regular food with tahara. It's not a concern for them, because it's a slight chance, which is not really something we have to take seriously regarding ordinary day-to-day activities, such as regular chulin. But when it comes to truma, when it comes to chulin, we give it higher standards. V'tmein, and it is considered tameh. L'truma, if this episode relates to truma, it's an issue, right? And likewise, regarding chulin, that's tevulin l'chalal, the dough from which the chalal will be separated. It's also considered like truma, like challah, and has that same standard to abide by. In which case, if that's the suffix tumah that happened to this dough, eventually the challah separated from it will not be eaten by the kohen, will be sort of in limbo. Ask the Gemara, is that so? B'chulin hatvulin l'challah k'challah domu? Is that true that a dough which has within it a potential challah, the entire dough is treated like challah and given higher standards? But now we have a mishnah which seems to indicate otherwise. Challah is challah, and the rest of the dough is the rest of the dough. Atanan isha she tvula asiyah. A woman is a tvula, meaning she immersed in the mikveh but hadn't yet experienced sunset, so she's partly tahar. And a tvula does not adversely affect chulin. It only would affect like truma, right? So she's trying to make a dough, knowing that within this dough there is challah, which she has to keep away from. So how does she go about it? She has this big batch of dough, which is chayiv and challah. How does she take off challah successfully? Lasha Isa, she can knead the dough, and she removes the portion for challah, but not yet designates it as such. When she puts it into some sort of board, some sort of semi-utensil which is not susceptible to tumah. So far so safe, because it's not yet challah. It's going to be challah, but not yet. And then she sticks together the dough with this separated piece, without touching that piece, just moving the board over. And now she finally declares it as challah. So that was a successful challah separation without touching it. Because there's no concern in the fact that she touched the original dough, because she, as a tful yom, has din of a sheni l'tumah, second level, and the dough at most would be a shlishi torah b'chulin, and by chulin matters, a shlishi is non-existent, so she does not taint the dough. The question is, what do you mean? But within this chulin dough, there's potential challah, which grants the entire dough a higher level, a higher standard. If you're going to tell me chulin, not chulin, the challah, chulin which has within it that eventual challah, the entire dough is kechallah damu, hatamesinu. This woman touched it. She had full yom. She touched anywhere in the dough, it's as though she touched challah. Why doesn't it become tummy? I'm not buying. I'll tell you why. There's a difference between a tful yom interacting with dough versus the zav over there, which may have leaned on it. It says like this: Amar Bai, Kol shevad vaday vadoi v'tamei chulin. A type of tumah where if it's for sure, where it's definite, it would be metamei chulin, just like, for instance, a zav. If you know the zav touched the chulin, of course it's tummy. Likewise, even if it's just an uncertainty, they apply the concern in a case of chulin, which is tevulin nachal. Gazru al sveikoi, mishum chulin atvulin nachal. So, if the basis, if the source here is a vaday tumah, which would affect chulin. So even though in this case it's a suffix, he's unloading a truck, it may have leaned, may have not leaned. But since it's not just plain chulin that we're talking about chulin which has within the challah, we treat it like challah, give it higher standards, and it's affected by that situation. As opposed to a tful yom, which has absolutely no say in the matter pertaining to chulin. He's not a player. He's a non-factor. As opposed to tful yom. So this tful yom kiven d'lim metamei. Even if he's for sure a tful yom, he wouldn't affect chulin. So likewise, he wouldn't affect even this dough which has within it challah. Okay, so according to Abai, the difference is very clear. In the previous case, we have a zav, who, if he would touch this, even regular chulin, of course he makes it tummy. So even though when it's just a slight suffix, not likely chance of tumah, nevertheless we'll machmer. Just like we would be machmer by turma and real challah, we also machmer by chulin, which is tava l'challah, close enough to challah, but by a tful yom, which has absolutely no effect on chulin, so he's a non-player. Likewise, even if it's chulin, not tvulin l'challah. Ask the Gemara. Let's circle back to Maseches Niddah. What about that previous 24-hour period prior to noticing the dawn? That's a situation where, if it's vaday, of course it's metame, even chulin. If an isha is a niddah, a full-blown niddah, of course she affects chulin. The vaday metame chulin. Vada'a metame chulin. And nevertheless, but lo yigazru al sveikim mishum chulin until nechala. Still, this very same tum in its suffix format, i.e., the previous 24 hours where it's a suffix, it may have arrived, it may not have arrived, it will not affect chulin, which is tvula nechala. How do we know? We learned this yesterday. Lo yigazru al sveikim mishum tvula nechala. Damar maz, we learned yesterday. Kibul mei Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yitzchak. So he answered, bechulin shnas al taras kodesh, v'lo bechulin shnas al taras truma. In yesterday's discussion, we had that conclusion that chulin, which was treated in accordance with the laws of Kodesh, will be affected by meis leis. So if the woman had interacted with those items during the previous 24 hours, they become Safek Tumah, but not by Chulin, which were Naswa Taras Truma, which were treated like Truma. And this is despite the fact that we're dealing with a bona fide, confirmed, a Tumah which would directly affect Chulin if it were a definite Tumah. So likewise, even in its Safek format, it should affect Chulin, which is being labeled, which is being treated like Truma. Just like that dough, which is being treated like challah because of the challah within it. Why not the same here? Says the Gemara, I'll give you another distinction. Another point of difference between that dough which has within it challah, which is treated like truma to a certain extent, as opposed to regular chulin material, which just happen to be treated like truma. Hasam like psicha b'hu truma. In your case, where you just had regular bananas, which the kohen, chose to treat like truma, either to get them into the practice and to get into, or for whatever reason, there's no actual truma psicha mixed into those foods. Hacha psicha b'hu truma, as opposed to this dough which has realistically within it, mixed within it, an element of truma, meaning challah, which is going to be separated from it in the future. So that's why it has to be treated on a higher standard. Another answer to this question is Hanach. Let's leave aside Me'es La'es, this tumah of the previous 24 hours, which is merely the Rabbanon. So to begin with, the whole thing is only the Rabbanon, because not Torah, only tell me from when you notice the dam going forward. This whole idea of Me'es La'es is only Rabbanon. So suffice to say that we apply it to real truma, to real kodesh, but to apply it to chulin, which was treated like, it's already a stretch. Okay, so conclusion. Chulin, which has within it, the challah, what status does it have? So regarding the zav that may have affected it, there we say, we treat this dough as though it's challah, and it's affected by it. It becomes safek tameh. As opposed to the isha who's at full yaim, they're not. Because that type of tumah is a much lower level tumah that would never even affect chulin. Even if it was certainly an issue, it wouldn't affect chulin. As opposed to the zav, which can affect chulin, if it's definitely, he definitely touched it. So therefore, even by a safek, we say, look, chulin, which connects to challah, which has within it challah, is treated like challah, concerned that perhaps it happened. Now, what about the idea of Me'es La'es, which does not apply to chulin, which was treated like truma? So we give two answers for that. Either because realistically there is no truma within it, in contrast to the dough, which has an actual element of challah within it, so therefore we don't have to treat this chulin to such a high standard to be affected by Me'es La'es, or because the whole Me'es La'es is only the Rabbah. Continues the Mishnah. So, speaking about Me'es La'es, in a regular situation, a woman discovers a flow of dam. She's not only tummy from this moment onward. We apply a tumah Me'es La'es. She's tummy for the previous 24 hours, as we explained. It's a tumah d'Rabbanan, misafik, which is limited to kachim and perhaps truma as well. Comes the Mishnah and gives us exceptions. In some cases, we say dayan sha'at. They suffice with their moment, meaning the concern only applies from the moment of discovery going forward. It does not go back in time. Because we're talking about situations where it's unlikely for her to see this dam. It's sort of a fluke. It's unexpected. If it happened, it happened. Concern is only going forward. What are these exceptions? Rabbi Eliezer Eimer, Arba Nosham Dayan Sha'at, and I have 4 exceptions, 4 examples where we say Dayan Sha'at. Besula, Mulberes, Menika Vizkena. Besula, here we're talking about a woman who never experienced a period. It's the first time. Okay, so we say, look, it happened, but let's not go back in time. Mulberes, expecting, unlikely for her to see dam. Menika, she's nursing, it was an older woman. From my, Rabbeim, I only heard about the first one, not the other ones. We turn to the days. Avol, But the Mishnah concludes, Halach Rabbi Eliezer, we follow Rabbi Eliezer's opinion, that in fact we have 4 exceptions. Now the Mishnah will explain for us, define for us exactly how these exceptions express themselves. What exactly does the basula mean? We're talking about a woman who never experienced dam. So even if she's not physically a basula in terms of interacting with a man, but here we're talking about basula, it's her first time experiencing dam. So it's relative to the period experience. She's married, etc. Muberes, expectant woman, Yeshiva, the Uber, once you notice her expectancy, at that point, full-blown Muberes, and she's not expected to have dam. If she does, it's a fluke. And the tum is only dayashat. The third case is menika. She's nursing. Until what point? Until she finishes the nursing period. Meaning until 24 months, which is considered the standard nursing period. But let's say she stopped nursing before that. Nasnabal manika, she relegated it to a nursemaid. Kumalato, she just terminated the nursing. The child died, but it's still within 24 months of birth. That's it. It's back to normal. And the Meislei's concept would apply to her if she has any dam going forward. No. Daya Shata. It still applies because until 24 months are up, her system is still out of sync, and she's not really expected to have a period. Ezoy is a zakena. Let's move on to the zakena. How do you define that? So it's close to her stage of zikna. The Gemara later will explain exactly how to define that. She's considered an older woman, and also in conjunction with the fact that she had a cessation of a period for 3 cycles, which is like a chazaka. So both elements together, the age factor and the cessation for 3 periods, renders her as a kena and lessens the concerns going forward. Rabbi Eliezer, or some say Rabbi Lazar, he says, actually, speaking of cessation, any woman can have that as well. Every woman who passed through 3 periods, 3 cycles, without seeing any dam, dayashata. That's it. She's assumed to be dam free for the time being. If she sees anything, dayashata. Rabbi Yossi Omer, let's go back to the Muberes or Meinika. He says, there too, another element is required. Aside from being Muberes and Meinika, you need to have 3 inactive periods. Sh'avar alein shalish oines, dayan shatan. So if they went through 3 months, 3 cycles without a period, then we say dayan shatan. In contrast to the earlier opinion, that you don't need this additional condition. As long as you're a Muberes or Meinika, that suffices for dayashat. Concludes the Mishnah. Ubameh amar or amru dayashat. When do we say that in these cases the concern is limited to the time of discovery going forward? It's her first fluky experience. So we say, okay, it's really unexpected, it's unnatural. We're concerned about it, but only going forward, aval b'shniya. But let's say it happened once, and then again. What does that say to you? That she's back to normal. She's back on track. She's seeing dam. In that case, we apply meisleis to this woman. Now, let's say the first experience was an accident, triggered by some sort of external, trauma or something. Then we sort of don't reckon with it. So then even the second time around, we consider like the second time like the first. So it's the first time experience, and we say dayashat. Okay, so conclusion. Typically, we apply the two meisleis, except, according to Rabbi Eliezer, in 4 cases, Besula, Muberes, Menika, and Zakena. Now, by Zakena, we need, in addition to the age factor, also a cessation for 3 oines. And according to Rabbi Yossi, that rule applies to Muberes and Menika as well. But according to Tanakama, by the other ones, we don't need the cessation of 3 oines. Now, what is Muberes? Once it's discernible. What about Menika? Certainly, if she's still nursing. What if she's no longer nursing, but it's still within 24 months? We have machlekes. And Rabbi Eliezer has a chiddush that every woman who ceased for 3 oinos is now considered dayashat. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. Rabbi Lezer presented 4 exceptions. Besula, Muberes, etc. Rabbi Yeshua says, well, I only heard about Besula. Tanya, we have a brisa, which presents a discussion between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua, Atale Shamati, Shamati. You say you didn't hear. I heard from my Rebbe. I learned. Atale Shamata Lachas. Yeah, you only heard about one. The Besula, Shamati Harbe. I heard of the many. So I can testify about those. You can just say you didn't hear, but I did hear. Hey, look, we don't tell a person, the person sitting at home didn't see the new moon, come testify. We don't seek his assistance. We know how would he know? We turn to the person who was exposed to the new moon, who witnessed the new moon. We tell him to come tell us. So likewise, look, you say you're not a prize of this information. I am. Okay? So in fact, called Yom of Shabbat Rabbi Eliezer isn't going to be sure. So although the Mishnah says that halacha adopts Rabbi Eliezer's approach, but not throughout Rabbi Eliezer's lifetime. When he was alive, they would follow Rabbi Yeshua's opinion. After Rabbi Eliezer's passing, Rabbi Yeshua restored it to its former status. The Rashash is Medayik. Apparently, way back they did apply this exception to all 4 women, but then it sort of got forgotten. Rabbi Eliezer represented it, and the community did not adopt his opinion only after Rabbi Eliezer passing. Why? Look, either it is or it isn't. The answer is like this: Rabbi Eliezer v'chayav lo, my time lo. Why didn't they go along with Rabbi Eliezer during his lifetime? Mishum Rabbi Eliezer shemuti. Rabbi Eliezer is shemuti. Actually, learns he was placed in cherem and excommunicated. So they didn't want that everybody would adopt his viewpoint regarding other matters too. V'savar, Rabbi Yeshua figured, if we follow his position on this matter, everybody would just adopt all his viewpoints on other things as well, and it's going to be very difficult to undo that. And out of deference to his honor during his lifetime, we wouldn't want to oppose him. We're not going to be able to turn people away and oppose them and be moicha, protest it, right? We're not going to protest what they're doing. That's why they opted out completely. But after he passed away, where they would have an easier time. In which case it would be easier to clarify matters. Rabbi say only this, but nothing else. In that case, he felt safe to adopt Rabbi Eliezer position in this matter. Hechser, he restored the matter as Hadav Yoshnai to its former, status. Meaning that we adopted Rabbi Eliezer position that all 4 women will have dayashat. Okay, speaking about Paskin like Rabbi Eliezer, Amar Vidam Shmuel, so Shmuel tells us halach Rabbi Eliezer ba'arba. In 4 matters only do we adopt Rabbi Eliezer's position. Which are the 4? Chada, the first one is Damar, the one that we just mentioned. V'idach, the next one, Hamakash. Rashi explains like this: a woman is Makasha, she's experiencing birth pangs, and she sees dam, and she's now during the Ziva period of her month. In which case, if she sees dam 3 days in a row, she becomes a Zava Gedola, requires a carbon. But the halacha is, in contrast to Nida, where even if it comes about, it's triggered by some sort of external force, she becomes tummy. But by Ziva, it's not so. It has to be a naturally occurring phenomenon. Machmas atzma, Rashi brings. Well, machmas vlad, it can't be triggered by a vlad, by birth, but the upcoming birth. So she's being makasha, she's experiencing, the difficulties preceding birth. So if in fact this experience is attributed to the birth, the dam would not make her a zava. But now those pangs have ceased. took the break for a bit, and then she gives birth. The question is, shall we still link the dam that she saw yesterday to tomorrow's birth? Or do we say, no, it's separate experiences? The fact is, she took a break from the pangs, it's a new experience. That's, Ziva, and this is Leda. So it really depends how long that break was. Kama tishva, how long is this quiet, period? Which would disconnect, de-link the blood from the future birth. Zava, which will make her a Zava. Because we no longer attribute the blood to the birth. Meis Leis, 24 hours. So basically, if she had seen Dam Sunday, Monday, then she took a break from the pain. And then a day later, she had a baby. The baby is the baby, and the blood is the blood. So she's still a Zava. So according to Eliezer, the 24-hour break does it. And that's how we paskin. Okay, so that's the second example of paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. The third case is Hazav Shabbat go atzmani rishon u'matzotar. Okay, it's very relevant today. So you have a Zav and a Zava. They just says the same would apply to an Isha Nida today, which observes the 7 clean days. So they check themselves. They're supposed to do it for 7 days straight. They check themselves only day 1 and day 7. Shabbat go atzmani and rishon. First day they checked u'matzotar, and they discovered themselves to be okay. And they skipped all the way to day 7. Yom Shvi u'matzotar. They only checked the first and 7. They didn't check the rest of the day. What happens now? So there's a pasuk which says, Achar titar, you have to have 7 consecutive clean days. Perhaps they were clean days, but they're unconfirmed. You got the head and the tail, but not the middle. We have a 3-way machlekas. Rabbi Eliezer Aimer, not to worry. Even though preferably you should be checking every day, but here, look, you got both ends. You assume that they're Torah. You started okay, you ended okay, you assume everything is okay. Rabbi Shua has a unique opinion. He says, you only have 2 days on your record. You have to add another 5. You have day 1 and day 7, which were confirmed to be okay. And first I'm explaining it's a chomer b'derabbanan, meaning that Torah, you assume that she's okay, but you may have seen dam in the middle, so midrabbanan, we discount those middle days. Rabbi Kiva Omer, no. All you have is day 7, and day 7 becomes day 1. Ein lahem elo yom shvi b'lvad v'tanya. How do we pass? Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi, they explain, in terms of comparing the opinions, which one seems more plausible to us? Nirin, Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer opinion seems more plausible to us, midivrei Bishua from Bishua. Because Rabbi Eliezer says, look, you have a chazaka that you're okay, we assume you're okay despite not having done a proper, thorough examination throughout the middle days. Over Rabbi Yeshua says that you have day 1 and day 7 on your record, which seems like a contradiction, because if you're concerned about blood in the middle, then day 1 is gone, because that's what happens. If there's any dam in the middle, it cancels all previous days. But truthfully, Rekiva's opinion, which is that only day 7 counts, everything else has to be discounted, seems more plausible than all the other shittas. But the bottom line is, halacha is Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, so here's your third case on your list. What's the fourth? V'idach. It's not. We have a Mishnah. Achere kelim shenitvu b'mashkin. You have a utensil whose back, right, the back of the kli, not the inside, the back, was tainted by liquids which are tummy. You have a liquid that touched, sheretz. It sprayed onto the back of a kli. Now the halacha is that this kli is tar because a kli could only accept tumah from an av hatumah, from a source of a tumah, like a nevela, or even mashkin, but mashkin which were produced by a zav, like a saliva, but just plain liquids which happen to touch a sheretz, which is a rishon l'tumah, cannot affect the kli. But midrabbanan, the kli is tumah, and only the back. The reason is because it can be confused with mashkin of a zav. So that's why we say every mashkin which tummy can affect the kli. But if it touched the back of the kli, only the back is tummy. It's limited to that zone. If it touched the inside, we say, look, the inside is the primary zone, primary usage area. It's like the ikar, like in brachas we say, you make a bracha on the ikar, then the tafel is the yitzid, the whole. So once the inside becomes the whole thing, the outside too. But if only the back touched the mashkin which tummy, only the back becomes tummy. So the zone is limited to the back zone. And number 2, it will only convey to him in a limited fashion. According to Eliezer, if the back of the kli in turn touches liquids which are tar, they become tamei. Only liquids, but if it touched food, the food is unaffected. And the reason is because liquids are more liable to become tamei. You see, in contrast to food, which has to go through a process of hechsher l'kavol tumah, has to get wet and the whole situation, liquids are alulin l'kavol tumah. They're much easily becoming tamei. They're more susceptible to tumah. So Chacham made a gzera that if they will come into contact with the back of this kli, which got its tumah from mashkin, again, it's only tumah d'Rabbanan, but it will be metamei other mashkin, but not other foods. Rabbi Lezer, I remember metamas hamashkin. So the back of these kelim, which became tamei midrabanan, will in turn affect other liquids, but not foods. So let's say it's food, even if truma does not become affected by the back of the kli. And the Gemara explains metamas hamashkin afilu dechulin. So any liquid which touched the back of the kli, even if the liquid is chulin, becomes tamei. Rabbi Shua, no, I disagree. Metamas hamashkin u'paislan sa'ichlin. The back of this kli will be metame mashkin, like you say, but if it touched solid food, which happens to be truma, it also becomes affected. Rabbi Shua, it's a kavol chaimer. Uma tvul yoim. Look, a tvul yoim, who has a din of a shein l'tumah, can disqualify truma if he touches it, but cannot affect chulin, like we learned before. Shein metame mashkin chulin, you can't affect liquids of chulin at all. Nevertheless, paisel echle truma, you can disqualify truma foods. Certainly, achayre kelim shemetame mashka chulin, the back of the kli, which is going to be metame mashka chulin, has that advantage. Of course, it should affect truma as well. And it didn't. Shepaisel should affect oichel truma solids. Rabbi Lezer responds, no, achayre kelim d'Rabbanan. The whole idea that the back of a kli that became is only d'Rabbanan. But tvul yom d'Oraisa, how could you compare it to your story of a tvul yom? That's minat Torah. It's even of tumah. You can't compare d'Rabbanan with d'Oraisa. You can't make a kavol chaimer from the Raisa to the Rabban. Let me explain my position. The Raisa, because truthfully, minat Torah ein oichel metame kli, ein mashka metame kli. A kli cannot become tamei through food and liquid touching it. But Rabbanon the Gazer. The only reason why in this case we say the back of the kli is tamei by touching the tamei liquid is the Rabbanon, on account of the the zav saliva gzerim shem mashkan the So the whole idea of the back of the kli being tamei through liquids is only with the Rabbanon. So number one, it's limited to that zone, to the back of the kli. Number two, it's limited in its ability to convey tumah. It only affects drinks. Mashka, because liquids, the alulin, which are more liable to kavol tumah, because like we explained, you don't have to go through the hechsher process. It's much easier to become tamei. So because it's so close to tumah, gazu rabban apply a tumah on that. If they touch the back of these kelim, but solids, which have to undergo a whole process. Hechsher tumah, they ain't alulin kavol tumah. They don't have the susceptibility of tumah like liquids, and therefore, since they're further away from tumah to begin with, loy gazu rabban but not apply gzera if the solids touch the back of the kli. Now, why do we speak about the back of a kli? Why do we discuss the back of the kli specifically? Because there's a leniency on the back of those kelim. Like we explained this now, we have this Mishnah. Klishnit machorav b'mashkin. A kli whose back got affected by the unclean, mashkin, achorav tamei. So in that case, since the back of the kli, the outside is a secondary usage area, so we limit it to that area. And the rest of the kli is spared. Toichoi, the inside, aznai, some sort of like ornamental, like an ear, like a handle, oignai, a lip. Aznai, it's eisen, it's oignai, it's lip. Yodav, it's handle. Torah, they're okay, they're tar. But nitma toichai kuloi tamei. Let's say the mashkin tmein came into the kli itself, which is the primary usage area. The whole thing gets affected, the inside and the outside. And you're right, in that case, explains Rashi, Rabbi Lezer would agree. Since we're considering the whole kli tamei, we treat it like a regular tumah deraisa, sort of, and therefore it can convey tumah even to foods, as opposed to the case where the kli was only affected from the outside, in which case the whole tumah is just limited to that zone, so it's limited in the way it can convey tumah as well, in its scope and its power, and it only affects other liquids. Okay, so here's the fourth item on our halacha Rabbi Lezer list, which Shmuel had presented for us. And the question now is, my kamashmon, Shmuel, what's Shmuel's teaching us here? That in all four cases we follow Rabbi Eliezer. Bekulu Tanan, Hilchasa. Go through the four cases. You'll see in each one of them it says Halach Rabbi Eliezer, Halach Rabbi Eliezer. So what's the point of promoting it again? Yeah, all except for the last one. Perhaps you'll say the point was for the fourth example, with the Kli Gat Tami, where there's no explicit conclusion that we follow Rabbi Eliezer. So that's what it was needed for. Okay, if that's all he was trying to teach us, so you should just specify. Look, you should know, Rabbi Yisai, in the case of the Kelim, we pass Rabbi Eliezer. Why do you have to say in four cases? Shmuel's point was to convey to us, never conclude a halacha based on what was stated in the Mishnah or Brisa. Even if the Mishnah says, Halach Rabbi Eliezer, we cannot adopt it, halacha l'maisa. Why? Why is that? Oh, so one second, before we get to why, that's why Shmuel had to get up and declare, independently of the Mishnayos and the Brisa. You should know, after analyzing it, after discussing it, the Amoraim have concluded that in fact in these four cases we follow Rabbi Eliezer Shita. But otherwise we could not conclude based on the wording of the Mishnah itself, even though it says Halach Rabbi Eliezer. Why is that? So Rashi explains here. Very interesting Rashi. Let's see it inside. 5 lines from the bottom. The fact that Shmuel had to go out of his way and declare the halacha to be like Rabbi Eliezer, Shema Mina, we learn from it. We can't learn halacha in Talmud. What does that mean? What does Talmud mean? Talmud typically is used in reference to Gemara. So Rashi says there were two versions of Talmud. There was the earlier version of Talmud, the time of Mishnayos. Talmud means to delve and to analyze, right? Even if you find the words halach kiplani in the Mishnah and the Brisa, you can't derive from it. Because the later generation, they really delved into the depth of the opinions of the Tanaim, and they derived, the clarity of halacha by sort of evaluating and considering all the different opinions and the factors and the aval rishon. As opposed to the earlier generation, they did not go into that, world of going and analyzing the others' opinions. Rather, the system was that every Tana would convey to his students what he heard from his rabbi. That's it. Mishnah, Brisa. That's what we call Mishnah Brisa. Clear cut halacha is conveyed from Rabbi to Talmud. So each Tana would, delve into his position and present it, with the whole background and the understanding. Each one would present the reason, the rationale for his opinion. That's what you're supposed to learn. First you learn more, superficial, then you delve, but bottom line was more personal. And that depth and that understanding, so that's what we call Talmud, the Talmud version of the Tanai. Mishnah. And therefore, if you find any Mishnah, Sheshniba, Psak Halacha, Misvars, Talmud Nishnis. If you find the words Halacha KXX in a Mishnah, that is the Talmud version of the Tanaic era. But us, later on, we can't conclude based on that. We can't go with it. Because it was meant to be developed further. And as the Amoraim did, they incorporated all the various positions and opinions, weighed through them, evaluated them, and concluded accordingly. That's how we have to work with. So that obligated Shmuel to get up and make that declaration, Halach Rabbi Eliezer, in 4 cases. I think more later we'll ask, we'll see tomorrow, Hashem, why is it just 4? It seems like it's 5, like it's 6. We'll see that tomorrow, Hashem. Okay, bottom line, Truma, Kodesh have higher standards regarding, susceptibility to Tumah. They're more fragile, more sensitive. What about Chulin, which is related to Chala, related to Truma? So we discussed all kinds of variations and levels of concern, which apply, which don't apply. Here, the Mishnah. Meiz Leis is ordinarily applied to a woman, except by those 4 Nashim. That's how we pass them, Rabbi Eliezer, Uberes, Menika, Zakena, and Sula. We discussed the qualifications of each And we have the Shmuel's declaration that we pass on Rabbi Eliezer in 4 cases, one of which are the 4 women in our Mishnah. Okay, all the best to you and Atzlacha Rabbah.